Many still ask, is Ukraine simply trying to delay an inevitable end? The data from March 2026 offers a cold reply. Stop asking when Kyiv will fall, ask why an empire of steel is crumbling before lines of code. Ukraine is no longer fighting to survive. It is running an entirely new war operating system, one designed to dismantle Putin's machine piece by piece. For the first time in this war, Ukraine launched over 7,300 drones into Russia, surpassing the very numbers Moscow once used against it. In just 31 days, 35,000 enemy casualties and a string of oil refineries reduced to ash proved one undeniable truth. When data guides firepower, sheer mass becomes nothing but cannon fodder. What is collapsing now is not Kyiv's front line. It is the entire illusion that the mass warfare of the last century can defeat the algorithms of the future. Active defense. How Ukraine is turning every Russian advance into something meaningless. March 2026 was not a stalemate. It was a grinder for Moscow's manpower. Ukraine has moved far beyond passive defense. What Kyiv is now running is active defense, a cold, precise, highly calculated doctrine. It no longer tries to hold every meter of ground with blood alone. It turns the battlefield into a trap designed to wear Russian combat power down. Every Russian step forward is no longer a real victory. It is a rising price Ukraine is forcing Moscow to pay. Kyiv's objective is clear. Not a flashy grand offensive, not a dramatic map-wide breakthrough, just one brutal reality drag Russia into a war where the cost of holding ground becomes greater than the value of the ground itself. The nearly 50 square kilometers Ukraine regained in March sent a powerful message. This was not just about territory, it was proof that Russia's offensive logic is being broken. While Moscow poured manpower into its spring campaign, Ukraine answered with selective counterattacks aimed at the weakest links. Russia pushed in one sector only to be torn open in another. The result was simple. Whatever ground it took failed to produce meaningful strategic value. Ukraine does not need a theatrical counteroffensive. It only needs a battlefield where Russia loses troops faster than it can hold what it claims. Russia's exhaustion is visible in the collapse of its advance rate. In 2025, Russian forces were moving at roughly 13 square kilometers per day. By March 2026, that figure had dropped to about 2.5. The pace of advance fell sharply in just 1 year. That is the price of repeatedly slamming into a defense that is getting smarter. Ukraine is forcing Russia to trade thousands of lives for small patches of land, many of them with a little real strategic value. Russia may still draw arrows on the map, but in the math of attrition, it is losing more heavily by the month. The figure of 35,351 Russian casualties in just 31 days is a direct blow to the Kremlin's illusions. This is no longer ordinary attrition. It is a rate of loss that is becoming harder and harder to replace. At its current recruitment pace, Russia is assessed to be on track for a shortfall of about 65,000 troops against its 2026 target by the end of the year. That is the real strategic danger. Once fresh manpower can no longer keep up with battlefield losses, pressure begins to build inside the entire front. Ukraine understands that weakness. It keeps forcing Russia to move reserves to plug holes, and every hole that gets patched leaves another sector thinner than before. Ukraine is no longer wasting resources on risky, broad front counteroffensives. It is fighting with a slicing approach. Tight, practical, ruthless. It strikes where Russia holds ground with thin infiltration groups, weak control, or no real defensive depth. In places like Oleksandrivka and Pokrovsk, Ukraine has shown that it does not need greater mass to win. It only needs to know exactly where Russia is thinnest, most exhausted, and easiest to break. Real-time battlefield data gives Kyiv that edge, and every small counterattack is designed to force a Russian mistake, then turn that mistake into a wider chain of failures. Ukraine's growing maturity in command also shows in its willingness to give up what matters less in order to protect what matters more. Kyiv is not trying to cling to every patch of land at any cost. It is drawing Russian forces into prepared fire bags where drones, artillery, and precision fire are already waiting. Around Kupiansk and on the southern front, Russia has repeatedly chased the illusion of gaining ground without realizing it was entering battle spaces designed by Ukraine to kill offensive momentum. The 2026 battlefield is proving something very clearly. Old steel and sheer mass are not enough to beat speed data and adaptation. Ukraine's active defense doctrine is making Russia pay a growing price for every meter it tries to seize. Putin's military machine is becoming heavier and less efficient. Ukraine, meanwhile, is getting leaner faster and more lethal. But the reason Russian infantry is collapsing at this pace is not just the trenches. It also lies in a new force dominating the skies and turning every meter of the front into a trap with eyes data and long reach. Ukraine no longer measures victory by map colors. The real metric now is the tempo of destroying Russia's combat capability. While the Kremlin is still busy selling the image of forward movement, it has already been pulled into the kind of war Ukraine wants to fight. An army begins to break when its loss rate outruns its replacement rate. And in the east, Ukraine is pushing Russia's mass war logic toward its breaking point. Drone assault legions and the rise of the smart kill zone. For a long time, the Kremlin believed the sky would always remain one of its best tools for crushing Ukraine's will to resist. It launched drones in waves, sent missiles along multiple axes, hammered energy infrastructure, and assumed that if the volume stayed high enough, Kyiv would eventually wear down. That was Moscow's old logic. Use mass to overwhelm the system. Use constant pressure to force the other side into a purely defensive posture. But March 2026 showed that this logic is beginning to break. For the first time in this war, Ukraine launched more drones at Russia than Russia launched at Ukraine in the same month. The figure of 7,347 Ukrainian drones against 6,462 Russian drones is not just a shocking statistic, it is a psychological reversal. The sky is no longer a one-way road where Moscow strikes and Kyiv absorbs. It has become a two-way battlefield where Russia itself must live under repeated aerial pressure. Once the side that used to be hunted begins hunting back, the balance of initiative starts to move. But Ukraine's real strength is not just that it is launching more. It is making what Russia launches far less effective. In March, Ukraine intercepted nearly 90% of Russian drones and roughly 3/4 of incoming missiles. That means Russia can still generate massive strike packages. It can still set records in the number of airborne attack systems used. But the strategic effect of those strikes is being blunted at a very high rate. Russia is still hitting hard. The difference is that the door in front of it is now thicker, smarter, and far harder to break. That is where Ukraine's drone assault doctrine becomes dangerous. Drones are no longer support tools for battlefield footage or artillery correction. They have become combat infrastructure. They find targets, they track targets, they close off routes of approach, they hunt infantry groups, armored vehicles, and ammunition staging areas. Once a system can detect and strike faster than human units can react, war begins to leave its old logic behind. It enters the age of compressed kill chains. The figure of 35,351 Russian casualties in March, with a very large share linked to drones, is the clearest proof of that shift. Drones do not just add firepower, they accelerate the entire cycle of destruction. The time between detection and strike has collapsed, often down to minutes. That turns the battlefield into a smart kill zone where technology governs the tempo of survival and death across the front. And inside that space, Russia's massive scale is no longer an advantage. It becomes something easier to see, easier to target, and easier to tear apart. Human wave tactics only work when the defender cannot see enough, track enough, or strike fast enough. Ukraine is increasingly doing all three. It combines real-time data, reconnaissance drones, strike drones, artillery, and precision fire to create pre-shaped engagement corridors. The result is that every Russian push is no longer just an advance. It is an entry into a battle space that has already been mapped, watched, and prepared for destruction. Russia's sheer size is turning into its own burden. What should worry Moscow even more is how fast Ukraine learns. Every night, incoming Russian drones give Kyiv more data to improve interception. Every fresh infantry push gives Ukraine more patterns to refine the hunt. Russia is pouring resources into the battlefield like a heavy industrial machine. Ukraine is learning and evolving like a living system. In a long war, the side with the shorter feedback loop and the faster correction cycle usually shapes the future of the front. When every meter of the line is covered by the eyes of drones and smart sensors, Russian infantry is no longer stepping into a traditional battlefield. It is stepping into a digital meat grinder where cameras, algorithms, and the cold patience of the enemy are already waiting. Ukraine is not breaking Moscow's offensive rhythm by firing more. It is doing it by seeing first striking cheaper and adapting faster. Russia still thinks war is a game of mass. But once mass is turned into a target, Moscow's old logic of war starts to crack. Data management and digital networks keep Ukraine moving forward. Every advanced warfare model collapses if the logistics system continues to operate under old world thinking. By 2026, Ukraine has professionalized this vital lifeblood through a centralized platform combining public and private sectors, transforming logistics from an administrative burden into a distinct tactical advantage. What truly keeps this nation standing against enemy fire is not just ammunition, but the speed of replacing wheels, battery sensors, and the continuous flow of digital data. Ukraine does not merely procure equipment, it manages their entire life cycle with the precision of a top-tier tech corporation. Heavy-duty pickups have emerged as the new symbols of the Ukrainian military's flexibility on the ground. With powerful diesel engines, they are no longer mere transport vehicles, but true mobile fire platforms capable of proactively hunting down enemy drones. A damaged pickup can be maintained, refurbished, and returned to the front faster than a Russian squad can even pivot for a new attack. Optimizing civilian vehicles costing tens of thousands of dollars to protect million-dollar infrastructure creates a highly pragmatic economic equation, helping Kyiv maintain endurance in a prolonged war of attrition. The true power lies in the digital brain of the management system, where relationship-based procurement has been entirely eradicated. In its place is a ruthless performance filter. Every piece of equipment sent to the front is tracked by real-world data to decide its own existence. If a weapon type fails to meet the desired kill rate, the system immediately cuts the supply and funnels resources into more effective solutions. This transparency helps Kyiv optimize every bit of domestic resources, ensuring that precious assets are focused solely on what actually produces tactical results in the trenches. Ukraine now applies a budget structure that prioritizes efficiency above all. The vast majority of funds are poured into systems with proven capabilities, while a significant remaining portion acts as venture capital for breakthrough innovation. This allows new technologies to be combat tested in a very short time, rather than waiting months through complex certification procedures. This approach turns the entire nation into a massive military laboratory, where the speed of adaptation is so fast that Moscow's bloated machine cannot keep pace with the shifting rhythm of Kyiv's optimized algorithms. A war of attrition is not just about who fires more, but about who repairs and replaces faster. By digitizing the entire supply chain, a unit can now request and receive a certified vehicle faster than any traditional military standard. Data transparency ensures the Ukrainian military operates at peak capacity to systematically break the adversary's offensive momentum. Building a network of hundreds of domestic manufacturers is evidence of a self-sustaining defense industry, constantly refining products based on immediate feedback from the battlefield, creating a cycle of constant improvement that the enemy cannot replicate. Data is now the new and most powerful ammunition, acting as a natural filter to eliminate the obsolete. The intelligent management system minimizes the risks of corruption and wastes the silent termites that hollow out any army from within. The combination of mechanical mobility and artificial intelligence in logistics has created a barrier that Russia finds extremely difficult to penetrate. This generates a continuous evolutionary loop, where today's army is always smarter and more efficient than it was yesterday, despite the immense pressure of constant bombardment. Ukraine's superiority in 2026 lies in its ability to run its military like a fast-learning ecosystem. Russia may have more soldiers, but Ukraine possesses a superior cycle of feedback and adaptation. When data drives logistics, every effort of attrition from Moscow hits a solid wall of technological resilience. Ukraine is not just winning on the battlefield, it is winning the productivity and pragmatic administration race. The shift from mass to velocity has redefined what Ukrainian sovereignty means in practice. Every data-backed decision not only saves the budget, it directly saves soldiers' lives on the front lines. While the adversary remains locked in manpower-depleting tactics, Ukraine has built a digital logistics platform capable of self-healing and continuous upgrading. This war will ultimately be decided by the side capable of maintaining the highest tempo at the lowest cost. And in that race, Kiev's algorithms are steadily pulling ahead of Moscow's raw muscle. 4 years has been long enough to strip away the final masks of obsolete military doctrine. Ukraine, in 2026, is no longer a nation struggling to survive. It has evolved into a war ecosystem that learns, adapts, and grows stronger amid the flames. The synergy between precision strikes targeting the enemy's economy, drone assault units, dismantling every ground offensive, and a data-driven logistics brain has produced a military model the world has not seen before. Russia still fights to win with the mass of the last century. Ukraine is winning with the algorithms and velocity of the next one. When a system of sheer numbers collides with one that self-optimizes by the minute, the first thing to collapse is not a front line, it is the entire logic of attrition that Moscow has long relied upon. The cold pragmatism of data has proven a new truth. The strongest force is not the one with the most steel, but the one capable of adapting faster than the bombs can fall. Ukraine is not just defending territory. It is writing a new blueprint for the future of sovereignty and military power in the digital age. In your view, which element is the true fatal blow to Moscow? The long-range strikes, the drone swarms, or Kiev's digital logistics brain? Share your thoughts below. And follow for more deep analysis on the conflicts reshaping the world order.